Hi there. So we're going to delve into the meat and potatoes of Julian's interview, talking about local control as well as a lot of fiscal responsibility. But before we do, I'd like to address my critics who have commented that I seem obsessed with criticizing Julian Bradley and the GOP. Well, here it is. Julian is my opponent, so I'm going to look at what he says, but his future plans, because he toes the GOP party line, are probably based on what the Wisconsin GOP has done for the last 10 years. So the question becomes, how has their performance been? Has it been satisfactory? If it has, that's what we can expect, most likely going forward. However, unless we actually sit down and analyze where we are now and how we got here, maybe we don't know if we've actually had a satisfactory performance. And that's what I want to delve into. So let's begin.
Let's talk about property taxes. Because we're a high property tax state, school districts, local governments have been living with caps and limits on their property tax levies, although they can be exceeded if you pass a referendum. If you're a state senator voting on the next state budget, should we keep those caps and limits on property tax levies in place?
We can't let property taxes go up, and we have to do something about all the referendums as well. Here's the situation. We've got to re-examine how the funding is working.
Okay, that's an interesting statement because funding can really only come from taxes and fees. So I don't know how we re-examine it. Nor does Julian ever say how we re-examine it. As far as the referendums, I'm going to hit that later on, either in this video or maybe a later one. We'll see.
We taxing people, especially in a situation right now. People are hurting. The economy is not in the best shape. We're slowly recovering now, but after the governor shut down the state, everybody is trying to figure out their budgets. They're trying to get things up and running, get their lives back in order, and figure out how they can get their families and their situations to the best possible situation. To do that, to raise taxes on people, that's not going to do that. That's going to hurt them even more. And we take a look at our seniors.
Okay, before he gets into senior citizens, which is the word he just said there, I do want to completely and utterly agree with Julian. Raising taxes right now, property taxes and stuff, would be absolutely foolish. We're in the bottom of a crisis. This is the time where you cut taxes. Unfortunately, we've had massive tax cuts over the last 10 years as we've had massive growth, both at the federal level and the state level. So that has put us in a position where we don't actually have that cushion to cut. That's part of the problem with the plan that they've had over the last 10 years. And that is just basic economic principle that, quite frankly, the GOP has screwed up.
Citizens, we take a look at our people that are just barely getting by, and they have that little piece of the American dream. I talked about it a moment ago, right? Whether it's owning a small business or owning your own home, that is still the American dream, and we've got to preserve that. We've got to protect that. We can't tax people out. What happens here in our state is very unfortunate. People get to a retirement age, which is when they're on a fixed income, and what do? The state they've lived in, the state they've loved, and the state they've worked in for all of these years, they leave and they go somewhere where they can afford to live a little bit cheaper and a little bit better because of property taxes. We can't allow that to happen. I love our senior residents. I love all the residents of our state, and we want to keep them here. They've called Wisconsin their home, and they should be able to do so.
Okay, so let's pause there and talk briefly about senior citizens. Now, it is entirely possible that there are people that leave the state of Wisconsin because of property taxes. I won't deny it. But here's what I do want to show you. So this is from the Department of Health Services for Wisconsin, and here we have age group 65. So this is from 2010 through 2014, and we went up 12% in the number of senior citizens from 2010 to 2014. Continuing that, where's my spreadsheet? There we go. This again, Department of Health Services, so now this is 2018. The 65 plus group is now up to 924,000. which is an 18% increase from 2010. So it went up 12%, then about another 6% from 2014 to 2018. So our senior citizens are not leaving. That is the largest growing section of our population here in Wisconsin. 2018, 924,000, up 18% since 2010. So I don't know where Julian's getting his thoughts from. I don't know where he's getting that data from. Again, do people occasionally do it? Absolutely. And so does it perhaps become a bigger story than it is? Sure. But the truth of the matter is that our senior citizen population, 65 and older, is continuing to grow in Wisconsin. They are not leaving. Over that entire time frame, our population grew by 2.3%. Not huge by any stretch of the imagination, but our population still grew. So we do not have a mass exodus of senior citizens leaving Wisconsin because of property taxes. Julian is just wrong.
Local government officials say, if you want us to stop reliance on the property taxes, give us some alternative revenue options. The city of Milwaukee, for example, wants to enact a half-cent sales tax. Is it time to give local governments new revenue options, Julian?
New revenue options in the form of raising taxes? Absolutely not.
Okay, again, what other options are there? Yes, you could say fees. However, those are still considered taxes.
As I just stated, we cannot afford to do that. People are hurting. All of a sudden, so we're shifting taxes from property taxes to the goods and services that you need in your daily life. We can't do that. Local governments need to do the same thing that you and I have to do right now, Steve. We have to evaluate our budgets, and we have to make cuts where we need to make sure we have the things that we have to take care of. Now is the time for us to do that.
All right, I'm going to, again, pause him here, and I want to show you something that I think is really fascinating. This is, there we go, a little refresh. This is Wisconsin tax revenue for the state. So this does not include local taxes, doesn't include municipalities, doesn't include property taxes, okay? 2019, $17.3 billion. Notice that from 2010, obviously things continue to go up, but we had a little bit of a dip here associated with the Great Recession, and then things continue to rise at a pretty significant pace. 2011, this is when Governor Walker took over, $12.9 billion. So here's the thing, people. We increased tax revenue in this state under Scott Walker and the GOP by 34% from 2011 to 2019. 34%. Our population grew by 2%. Unemployment fell by 3 or 4%. All of that math means that they brought in, what did we jump from? 13 billion to over 17 billion. So we're bringing in over almost $4.5 billion a year more than we were, and spending it all. So don't tell me about fiscal responsibility when we increased this much, and spending increased right along with it. All right, let's go back. All right, here we go.
Been through a process before, back when the economy collapsed, 2008, 2009. We started going through that process. We have to do it again. We should always be doing that. As a fiscal conservative, I believe that's not something that just happens when things are bad. You should be doing that when things are good as well. That's how you build a savings. That's how you
Whoops, I muted him, sorry. That's a really interesting point, because the GOP at the federal level and at the state level continues to cut taxes while things are going well. You've certainly heard the term make hay while the sun shines. Well, they've not done that. Instead, they've cut taxes while the sun shines. So they've cut down the hay, essentially. And here's the problem with that. When we get into a crisis scenario, like right now, we don't have the ability to cut more. We don't have that flexibility. So that's part of the problem. What needed to happen is, while the economy was picking back up, while unemployment was dropping, while wages were slowly starting to creep back up, we needed to leave taxes where they were, or perhaps put them a little bit higher back on the wealthy, but certainly not drop them dramatically on the wealthy. We needed to leave taxes up and actually create the cushion that we needed so that when the next crisis hit, which we all knew was going to happen, although COVID has been unusual, yes, but when the next crisis hit, because they're cyclical, we would have had a cushion to fall back on and could have actually looked at lowering taxes for businesses and residents to help propel the American dream that Julian keeps talking about.
A sustainable plan for keeping yourself going forward on a fiscal level. That's what we need our local governments to do. That's what I'm going to champion in Madison for our state government as well.
How do we stabilize highway funding?
Okay, I'm going to delve into highway funding in the next one because this video is getting a little bit long. But I want to talk about one quick thing. Fiscal responsibility. Let's talk about Foxconn. The Wisconsin State Republicans decided to offer $3 billion, and it actually wound up ballooning to $4.1 billion with local subsidies. And I'm sorry, I'm reading from some of my notes here. But it was originally $3 billion, so let's just work with that number. For 13,000 jobs by Foxconn. Now, Foxconn had screwed several other countries, but let's take that out of it. What this equated to, $3 billion and 13,000 jobs, there we go, is an expense from the state, a payment from the state of $230,000 for every job created. And the average job wage was going to be about $57,000, $58,000. So let me put that into perspective for you. Here's an income tax calculator based on 2019. And of course, this was a few years ago, but hasn't changed dramatically. So let's take $60,000 just to make life easy. Somebody making $60,000 in Wisconsin as a single person, here's their deductions, here's their taxable income, and $2,600 is what would go to the state of Wisconsin. They're going to pay $230,000 for every job. That means that it would take 88 years in order for the state to break even on a plant that was going to be making LCD monitors. Okay, this is a terrible, or was a terrible plan. And of course, it has changed dramatically, and it's now, instead of a Category 10 facility, it's going to be a Category 6, 5, or whatever it is going to be. But the point is, they were so excited, and I'm not opposed to TIFs. I am not opposed to the government getting involved in order to bring business in. I'm fine with that. But let me give you a comparison. Amazon just finished building its new facility down in Oak Creek on 13th and Ryan Road. They are going to be hiring, I believe, I think it's around 1,500 employees, probably going to be making somewhere around $19 an hour by the time they're done, so $38,000, $40,000. Amazon is getting $5,000 an employee. That's reasonable. That's reasonable, it's beneficial for Amazon, and it's reasonable for the state of Wisconsin. $230,000 per employee? $3 billion? Remember, we are making, as a state, about $4 billion a year more than we were in 2011. They're looking at spending all of that additional revenue to give it to Foxconn and not get paid back for 88 years. Now, I know it's going to be faster because there's sales tax and gas tax and everything else, and the estimates were really 25 to 35 years, but still, 25 to 35 years payback? That's terrible. That's a terrible fiscal decision. So that's what the state GOP has done. They have increased revenue by 34%. They are giving away money in a poor, poor decision. And that doesn't include $1.4 billion for healthcare that they haven't accepted from the ACA. That doesn't include any number of other things that I'm going to hit in other videos. So this is what we're going to talk about. We're going to delve into the actual finances, and we're going to delve into how the GOP has put the state of Wisconsin into the bottom third of states as far as overall economic performance. That's what they have done in the last 10 years. So I apologize if I seem critical. I am critical. I think we could do much better, and I hope that we will in the future. Thanks very much.